What's going on, everyone? This is Zach here, and today we'll be doing something a little bit different. So as you all may know, if you've been following our Instagram and YouTube, I've been doing a lot of predator hunting this year. And some may say that I've had a pretty successful year. I've been seeing a lot of coyotes, a lot of bobcats, been killing a lot of coyotes. I got a bobcat this year, so the Lord has blessed me with a very successful predator hunting year. So today's video is actually going to be a series of videos talking about predator hunting or hunting in general, giving my thoughts and opinions on certain topics that I feel, I would like to talk about. So first, I'd like to give a quick little backstory about my predator hunting journey before I dive into this first topic. So I went out, first let's go back to my childhood when I was single digits watching TV. I used to watch this show, and I can't remember, I think it was on Outdoor Channel, but this show was called Predator Quest. And basically these guys would go out and they would just kill coyotes like religiously, no issues. It was like the early days of Fox Pro, but the show was called Predator Quest. And I watched that all the time. Like, I loved that show. And at a very young age, I told myself, I'm going to do that one day when I'm old enough. I want to do this. So fast forward, a couple years, I'm 15 years old, just starting to get into hunting. And my dad bought me my very first Fox Pro electronic call. This is their base model call. I think it was called the Hellfire, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember exactly which one it was. But anyway, it was one of Fox Pro's just entry base level calls. And I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know all of the tactics and all of the stuff I know now. So me being a 15-year-old kid, I just winged it. I went out there, I threw that call out, and I just put on a rabbit call and I waited. So probably 8 minutes into that rabbit call, a coyote showed up, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a coyote right there. And it stopped and looked at my call, and eventually, the shock exited, and I was like, oh, I gotta kill this thing. So I shot, I hit it, but I didn't hit it very good, and it ran off, and I never found it. So I was like, wow, this must be pretty easy. A coyote just showed up on the first stand I ever did. That was awesome. And the next time I went out was a couple weeks later, the same spot. And I noticed that my call had a lot more options on it, like coyote howls. So same thing, I set up, let that rabbit play for, at the time, probably 8 to 10 minutes. Nothing came in. So I decided to play a coyote locator. And same thing, I called one in. One came right in. This was right around evening. I shot and clean missed that one. That didn't matter to me. I was still pumped that I'm doing, what I'm watching the guys on TV do. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, this must be really easy. Well, I was humbled really quick because those were the only 2 coyotes I saw that year. And the only 2 coyotes I saw for 6 years. Well, until this fall when I called one in October. Well, that's actually not true because me and a friend of mine were able to go to Montana on a fishing trip, and in the night we went and I called in one out there, but I'm not going to count that towards my PA hunting experience. So I call in those 2 PA coyotes, and then 6 years goes by of me going all the time. I got all these spots lined up. I'm going all the time, and I'm not seeing them. I struggled for 6 years. I struggled. And, that really got to me because this was around the time I was watching Fox Pro Fur Takers with Big Al Morris and John Collins and Mike Dillon and all those guys on there. And I'm listening to Fox Pro podcasts. but I'm just like, I can't get coyotes to appear. And I'm thinking to myself, man, what am I doing wrong And what are those guys doing that makes them so good at it? Like, what can I learn from them? And I'm, doing what they're doing. I'm playing the same, because like on Fox Pro, they show like what sounds they're playing on the bottom. And I was listening, I was playing those sounds, but I wasn't seeing any coyotes show up. So that was frustrating. It got to the point of fall of this year, 2023, well, last year, fall of 2023, that, I was getting mad. I mean, I was getting frustrated because I've been spending so much time doing this and I'm just not having any luck. Like, I'm not having any success. So fall, like early October, I did some sets. I had no luck. Guys, I was considering giving up. I was considering selling my electronic call and just saying, you know what, I'm done. Like, I'm obviously have no idea what I'm doing. I've been going for years. I can't get luck. I had beginner's luck. That was what I thought at the time. And it was tough. Like, I struggled to call in coyotes. But then, in December, I met up with a guy who's a pretty big predator hunter around here, and he asked me to go with him one night. And he has a thermal scope. He has an I-ray bolt. So he took me out, and we went to one of my spots, the spots that I have called all the time and never seen anything. It's not 5 minutes. We were playing a gray fox distress. One came right in, and I shot it. You can actually see that coyote on our Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just killed one. Like, I was pumped. And then, it really still got me thinking, like, how game-changing that thermal scope was. So I was like, had I not have had that thermal scope, I'd have never seen that coyote. So eventually I bit the bullet and I bought myself a thermal scope, the RIX Leap L3. And then I took it out. The first time I took it out was that bobcat hunt that I did. And I was successful. I got a bobcat. And I was pumped because, like, I've always wanted to get a bobcat. And then my first time out, I shot one, taking out my night vision. And same thing that applied to that bobcat. I would have never seen that thing had I not have had the thermal. I just would have never seen it. So it made me think, like, maybe I wasn't having success. Maybe I just wasn't seeing stuff, because I wasn't going at dark. I was going at evening where it was still pretty light. So maybe just I was calling stuff in. Maybe I just wasn't seeing it. So yeah, that's just kind of my little backstory. And ever since I've had that thermal, it's been absolutely game changing. I've been seeing all sorts of dogs, all sorts of coyotes, all sorts of bobcats. So the first topic of this little series that I was wanting to do is discuss night vision and thermal, pros and cons of each, right? I've never actually shot a night vision scope, so I am just taking those facts based of what other predator guys tell me, based on what they say for this video. And I will obviously be giving my opinion on my thermal scope. I'm not going to say like which one's better. I'm just simply going to say like my opinions on them, and then what are some of the cons of both night vision and thermal. The cons of the night vision are going to be from what other people have told me. So let's start off with a thermal scope. Now, thermal scopes, back in the day, I'm not going to say back in the day, like a couple years ago when thermals first started getting popular, they were expensive. And that's going to be con one. Thermals are expensive. You're going to be paying some serious cash if you want to get a thermal. But not as serious as what it used to be. When I first started seeing guys hunt with thermals, they were spending $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, some even spending 10 on a good thermal. Fortunately for, predator hunters now, that's simply not the case, Thermal scopes have kind of gone down the same route as TVs. In my opinion, you're no longer spending a ton of money to get a good TV. Well, same thing applies to a thermal. But they're still pretty pricey compared to a night vision. Like, I know the RIX Leap L3, the one I have, is $2,300, which is still a pretty good chunk of change, but it's not as bad as what it, a thermal like that would have ran, 5 or 6 years ago. It probably would have been around $5,000. Now you can get thermals, which for 2,300, which RAX, I'm really going to hype that company up a lot this video because they are just amazing. They actually make thermals that are less than that. They make the Storm, which I think is like 1,200, and they make other models that are cheaper than that. But yeah, that's con one for a thermal, is that it's expensive, but they're not as expensive as what they used to be. Now, some pros with the thermals are, obviously you can see everything. Everything. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. You can see something coming. You can see deer. You can see anything because that gets that heat signature off the animal. You can see stuff coming through the woods. They're amazing. Absolutely game-changing for night predator hunting. It completely beats a red light 1,000%. Like, if you guys are able to do so, I would highly recommend getting a thermal. But yeah, that's the pros of a thermal. You can see literally everything. I guess you can say, like, I don't know if I want to count this as a con or not, but lower, like, thermals that are, like, my thermal has a 384, like the picture, so I can tell what an animal is out to maybe a couple hundred yards. Thermals that have less than that, you might not be able to see what one is out past 100, but guys, honestly, every coyote or bobcat I've shot at this year, they've been under 100 yards, so I don't really think that'll matter. As long as you can see that, like, something is actually heating up and coming in, I think, you'd be perfectly fine. So now I would like to move on to night vision. Now, I haven't owned a night vision, like I've said before. This is going to be strictly what I've heard other people tell me. Well, we'll start off with pros of night vision, first of all. So a pro of night vision would be it's cheap. Or cheaper, I should say. You can get a good night vision with an IR adapter for under $1,000. I know Cole was actually telling me he was wanting to get the RIX T20 Tourer, I believe it's called. And that's a great scope for the money. All the reviews I've read on that thing are amazing. You really can't beat it for the price, especially if you're just starting out in the predator hunting world. But yeah, you have that scope, and then you actually have another friend of mine whose name I won't mention, who actually shot that coyote that Cole uploaded with the night vision video. That scope was a sight mark, and he paid $370 for it, and you can't beat that. You guys saw that on the Instagram. If not, you can check that out on our Instagram at T&C Outdoorsman. But for almost $400, it has a pretty solid picture, I will say. However, there are, in fact, some cons with night vision from what he has told me and from what another friend of mine has told me. So according to my buddy who shot that coyote, you can't see it coming. He has a hard time. He can see eyes, and that's all he can see. Like me, there was actually 2 coyotes on that stand, and I saw them when they were probably 50 some yards in the woods, coming through the woods. He told me he was only able to see eyes, which I don't know if that's really a big of a difference or not, but for some it might be. So I guess it's just kind of the identification that makes it difficult with a night vision if they're not in the open field. And another thing that I've heard, like, from my buddies have told me about their night vision is they're not really that great out to like a couple hundred yards. Like, you can't really shoot that far. Like, maybe he said, according to him, he could see pretty well out to 150, but besides that, it's not that great, maybe, according to him. And that might just be his scope too. But, in all honesty, guys, I would just get, if you guys really want to get started in the predator hunting world, just get what fits your guys' budget. I'm not trying to tell you like what to spend or what to buy. I would just recommend getting what you can afford or getting what's in your budget and then going from there. But yeah, that is just pretty much my thoughts on like night vision versus thermal. if you guys have any input or anything you'd like to say or disagree with or anything, just leave that down in the comments, then we can discuss. These videos are meant for like discussion. Obviously, if you guys disagree, please let me know. You won't be shamed or anything. Just keep it respectful and we can discuss. And yeah, let me know if there's any other topics you guys would like for me to cover, and we'll make it happen. So yeah, thanks guys. Hope you guys enjoy this video.